10 years ago, we were in this rule-based world where you had to build a lot of code to describe the business logic and translate it into the system of the record. We started seeing a first advancement in AI, machine learning, that allowed to gradually switch to the systems where you don't need to put that code. And now, as a second wave of that, we're getting into the new world, into the agentic workflows, where it's not just a new way of looking at the rules that are there, but also a reasoning that the systems are doing. Hey guys, super excited to have this conversation today. Maybe just a quick intro. I'm Albert, founder and CEO of Stacks. Stacks is financial close platform. We help with AI agents, enterprise companies to close their books faster and more efficiently. We have these conversations in the office all the time when we speak about the technology that we build and how it impacts real workflows. So I thought it would be great to have this conversation with you today. Just very quickly, Pasha leads customer success at Stacks. Pasha had been in the trenches of closing the books at the companies like Uber, Miro for more than 10 years, lots of experience. I was lucky to work with Pasha at Uber as well many years ago. Naman leads product for Stacks, also more than 10 years of experience building various different fintech products, our Uber alumni as well. So super excited to chat today. The topic is absolutely fascinating. Technology is changing so many things. So I wanted to go a little bit deeper into this. Pasha, first question to you. You've been in this space for a very, very long time. And so we always been hearing from a lot of finance people, finance leaders, how manual and labor intensive finance processes are. What is the finance process in the first place and why it's so labor intensive?
Yeah, Albert, thanks. What I've observed at companies like Uber and Miro is that as the complexity of the business grows, the number of systems involved, the number of transactions is growing exponentially. You have different systems for revenues, banking, payroll, employee expenses, the list goes on. And at the end of the day, as accountants, we have a limited amount of time to take all these different transactions that are coming to you in all different formats, understand the business logic and the way we need to book them, apply the applicable accounting standards, and then get them into our ERP, the source of record. And while this sounds maybe straightforward in theory, in practice, it is very difficult, and it involves oftentimes lots of formatting, countless late nights in Excel, and it's a massive pain point, and we have to do it in a very short time crunch. So that's why every accountant, we look beat up after every month end close, especially in the busy season. So that's why it's been there. And it's been this way, unfortunately, since I've come out of college 15 years ago and working in accounting. It hasn't changed all that much in the last 15 years.
That's pretty crazy if you think about that. So maybe to just rephrase what I heard, so there are a lot of business logic different enterprises have. And then as an accountant, what we do is you classify transactions based on the business logic into the core system of the record, which is ERP. But also you apply a lot of accounting rules into this, just to make sure that you're compliant with whatever standards you or need to be compliant. Is that correct?
Yeah, precisely. That's it. Because it would be easy if we could just record transactions as they arrive to us, but accounting standards stipulate us that we use accrual-based accounting or other formats. So it's understanding the data, understanding how also your stakeholders, how your CFO, the management needs the data to be reported. So reporting with right departments, with the right string of accounts so people can find the financial statements useful, but also making sure they're applicable with the accounting standards that are legally, from a compliance perspective, required for us to report. So there's many different ways we need to make sure that information that we get from all these different systems in huge volumes of transactions get into that core system of record, the accounting ERP. So that's the key challenge indeed. Talking about the finance processes, it actually hasn't evolved all that much. I'm kind of curious to take as a product leader in the product space, because I'm an accountant. I'm curious to see how when I tell you this, what do you think about the trends? And is there opportunities for us to improve and make more efficient these processes around the financial close, just general finance processes?
I think if you look at the all of the systems, at the end of the day, there are a lot of different roles, and the way we were making systems work for specific companies, specific industries, is adding a lot of custom code and custom logic, and by itself, doing that is very, very labor intensive. So you need engineers, you need consultants, you need business analysts understanding the logic. So all of this is extremely, in a way, inefficient process. And yeah, so we've been doing that for many, many years, which made those things quite not scalable. And I think that's why if you think about a lot of different players in the space, they've been promising a lot of ROI, but we're still in a very, very manual process until then.
What essentially then has been happening is you do an implementation, something changes, like you said, business are evolving, and we cannot keep up with that with this custom code. I think maybe a question again back to you, Albert. Why do you think this is changing today? You can share a bit about that.
I think so. We already been living in a few years where AI made huge strides in terms of the technology evolution, and first time when we've seen that some of this rules, some of this logic could be recognized by the patterns of behavior of the users instead of hard coding those logic into the systems. That was like a first time when honestly, when we were discussing about even starting a company, we started, oh, this is this aha moment where look, something that was very much not scalable could be different. So we could build a system that highly tailored for each of the businesses and really solve the problem at scale. So this is the inflection point that we're at right now. We're still early on in this. The promise is there, and the question is how the technology will evolve there. And I think one thing now we always talk about is the shift, not just from rule-based to the AI, but also from AI to the agentic world. I'm just curious of how are you thinking about that? What's the difference between that and so why it's a big deal?
To your point, when we were discussing this 2 years back, we saw like real first glimpse of like AI recognizing patterns, and that was sort of like a trigger to get started on this. But what we've seen the technology evolve to is like larger context windows. Now AI doesn't even recognize patterns; it actually saves them in the memory. It can rephrase them, and sort of like what that has done is given us enough conviction to now start building on top of this new technology. What I believe is like powerful now is you can build a product with the right workflow so accountants can do their work correctly, but also save all of this in understanding context, the actions they are taking, the kind of data which we have seen in the past, and use that to basically do the workflows which were completely custom. So no, you don't have to write new code to get these new business logics inside of the platform.
Just to rephrase, 10 years ago, we were in this rule-based world where you had to build a lot of code to describe the business logic and translate it into the system of the record. We started seeing a first advancement in AI, machine learning, that allowed to gradually switch to the systems where you don't need to put that code. And now, as a second wave of that, we're getting into the new world, into the agentic workflows, where it's not just a new way of looking at the rules there, but also a reasoning that the systems are doing.
You can think of them as a team working on solving a problem. So it's not only looking at, I mean, we've all used ChatGPT, you prompt and we get an answer. It's not only doing that, but you also see agentic AI building a team internally, doing reasoning, trying to resolve the problem before coming back to you, Pasha, as an accountant to,
Yep.
to do the final review. And what's powerful and what's important is not to forget about that last review, because if you don't have a workflow, you can work with ChatGPT to do some things, but if you don't have a workflow, there's no audit trail. There's no human in the review. And that is very, very important in accounting. Maybe you can highlight that a little bit.
Yeah. I just want to go back to, I thought something was interesting because we talked about when we gained efficiencies in the old days, it was very code intensive. Like I think about how in my past finance teams, we were able to speed up the codes, extremely code intensive and bespoke solutions, which are not affordable in the old ways. I mean, it was expensive to implement. So we're saying that we're kind of almost like democratizing this and it's more accessible to finance teams because it's, can you elaborate a little bit on that, Noah?
Absolutely. And I think the way to think about this is think of it as a platform without without thinking of an individual company. Like Albert mentioned in the beginning, you don't have to worry about business rules anymore. You have a platform which has three key layers. One is the workflows, which you understand, have been using. Uh, the other is the context of your organization based on your past data, based on the actions you take. For example, if you were to reconcile a transaction, when you take that action, AI learns from it. And so basically, business rules are actually being written every time you use the platform now versus someone coding them in the background. And it's not a project anymore. It's just in the hands of the accountant versus waiting for a developer or an IT company to solve this problem.
I have a question to you. We've seen a massive advancement of AI in verticals like legal, which are obviously very language heavy. If you look at the finance, it's probably one of the most heavy labor intensive and heavy in terms of the manual workflows. But we haven't seen any significant products on agentic world at the moment. Why is that? Why do you think it's lagging behind and there are no ready solution that are solving this problem today?
Absolutely. And I think there's no like simple one word answer to this, but what I believe is super important for this to work is three key things, right? It starts with your data. If you don't have a clean set of data, if you don't vectorize this data, again, like not to use technical words here, but AI cannot really work with these old data sets, if you will. AI needs a very unique set of data points. So it starts with data, having that in a clean, vectorized format. Number two is context of the organization. This context, without having rules or custom code, can only be managed if you have the right workflows. And so I do believe you can build an agent which will do something again bespoke, but it will not be able to sustain over long period of time. So that's why it goes back to basically building a platform which has the right data, sits on top of your ERP and other platforms, which are super relevant to accounting. Number two is having the context of your specific organization. We'll give a few more examples perhaps to clarify that. But then on the top of it, for the end user, you need a very good workflow. And workflows, of course, have their own ways of improving, and we are also doing that on our platform. So I believe that's the reason we haven't seen a very functioning product today, because either people are trying to just do something bespoke on top of non-standard data, or they haven't built the right workflows. So I believe we need the whole stack to actually make this work.
There's a lot of foundational work that needs to happen before you can build those workflows. You need to set up connectivities. You need to make sure that data is prepared. You need to have auditability flows for the workflows. You need to have all those elements built in before you really start adding the value, which is just takes a little bit longer.
Maybe one thing to add there is that if you go to any standard ChatGPT, Gemini, it expects you to know what's the right prompt to get to the outcome. And we built the platform or the workflows in a way that you don't have to think about it. When you're taking actions, you're just reconciling a transaction, or you're writing a flux, or you're rewriting a flux. But we learn from your actions as opposed to expecting you to describe in a right prompt. And that to me is very, very powerful, because I do believe accountants don't have to think about this work. We have to do that work on our end to then make sure accountants can use the platform.
Good example of that. Today I had a conversation with a customer,
Yeah.
and their problem statement is they are having thousands of invoices coming in every month. They have thousands of vendors they are working with, and their AP team spending a lot of time doing the coding of those invoices so that they are allocated to the right cost center and they can do proper analysis of the data afterwards. So basically, one of the things that we discussed, they were spending quite a bit of time adding thousands of different rules, where it's like if invoice is coming from this vendor, it should be allocated to this.
This one has this tax code, all these specific rules.
Exactly. And instead of doing that, so what we discuss is just imagine you are having experience where you proposed a resolution or proposed coding, you review that and approve.
Yeah.
And then next time the system knows, and the code, those codes are already known in the context, the system remembers in the memory this context. There are ways to basically interject into that context as well. So that's incredibly changing the whole paradigm of how these automations are being built, making, as Alan mentioned, just giving a lot more power of automation in the hands of people who are doing the work instead of consultants and engineers.
Absolutely. And I think, of course, question might be like, hey, there are these no-code platforms. What if I just build something myself? And I think that to me is one thing I worry about a lot. Basically, if you start to prompt, if you start to really think through all of these, so basically going back to kind of this world where you were earlier doing custom code to now doing prompting. To me, that is an incremental improvement. But the way we are building the platform is you don't have to even think about it. So basically, what's powerful is the workflows which sit on top of this technology. You can build them on low-code platforms, but it's not going to be scalable. Basically, you'll go from writing custom code to then adding these rules on top of the platform. And that's what we are skipping. So we're skipping that generation of the products altogether.
I'm curious also because this sounds really cool, and almost every accounting and finance platform now has an element say, yeah, we've included AI on our platform. We were talking about earlier. The use cases are not all that defined. I think our actually covered a really cool use case, very practical use case about how there's an agentic workflow and the coding, which was spent hours doing coding all the way through and making sure the invoice is ingested into the ERP in a great way. I'm curious, what other use cases do you think can exist to help ease the pain on accountants like myself and basically gain? So I'm kind of curious to get your thought on that, Naman.
Absolutely. I think one of the most common ones, or two actually very common ones, are this whole idea of taking all of the data from systems which are left ERP to then posting that back to the ERP. And what accountants are doing is going through this exercise of raw data, categorizing it, making it work for the ERP, which I do believe AI is very good at. It's good at looking at past data, recognizing patterns, and then building these journals for you. So journal posting is one very good example where there's still a lot of manual work, but not a lot of value added.
Yes.
And what we believe is shifting that paradigm. Number two use case we've seen is bank reconciliation, cash reconciliation. It's beautiful when everything matches, but when it doesn't, you have to go line by line and figure out what are the issues. And yeah, it's pretty good at it. It looks at a big data set, matches it, and gives you the anomalies to focus on. And it doesn't stop there. It can also give you the resolution. So that's the way we're thinking about at least these two use cases, which probably are if you correct me, 50+% of the time spent on closes.
Yeah.
And so these are the two which we are laser focused on.
So you mentioned about some tools that, for instance, we at Stack built already, which is journal entry and categorization of the data, which is amazing. But it could have been possible in pre-agentic world as well, the same as transaction matching for reconciliation. But I think what I'm extremely excited about is the reasoning capabilities of LLMs, because the most amount of time that Pasha, as an accountant, you spend not on the transactions that are matched, but on exception resolutions. And that's where the reasoning of LLM is just helping you to orchestrate different tools. I'm missing this transactions in my ERP, so you need to call the tool for a journal entry.
Yeah.
I'm missing some data information from some other stakeholders, other team members, legal team. I need to send a message and get that information from there.
Absolutely.
And we can keep going this list of different resolutions that we may have to complete this task. And reasoning capability of AI is just like absolutely amazing for solving this problem.
Yeah, and it's so intuitive. Like if you zoom out, first thing you would do when a new vendor hits your inbox, you would go and do a web search to figure out what this vendor is.
Yeah.
These are all capabilities we can add to our Agentic AI. It does exactly the same intuitive thing you would do, and same journal entry tools. So it has, think of it as your sidekick or team member who has all the same tools available through our platform and more. And taking the first step, if you will, at least right now, to then resolve this problem. And so it doesn't come back to you with just problems; it comes back with solutions. And so that's the shift, I would say, which is happening right now.
I have a question for you. Something that was really interesting is, like, in my experience, finance teams spend, it's like 80-20. 80% of the time is spent reconciling the 20% of the outliers and the exceptions. I think a question a lot of us accountants are going to have is, how do I know that 20% can be done better by an LLM or AI than me doing it as an accountant? So I'd be curious to get your take on that.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. And I think so. It all goes back to reasoning capabilities of LLMs, and they becoming better and better over the time, and also different tools that we give our connectivities, categorization, reconciliation tools. So we keep building all different solutions. And if some tasks, it's possible for a junior team member to do that task, we're already seeing that LLMs are pretty good at that. And it's just the beginning. It's going to be much, much better than that.
Yeah.
So, very excited about all these capabilities.
Maybe a question rather back to you.
Yeah.
With this 80-20, I like that framework a lot. What would you think about the role of the accountant when you are very comfortable that all of that work can be done with your sidekick? Because that's something you also want to understand. What would be the next stage for accountants?
Absolutely. I think you nailed it earlier when you said a lot of time is spent in the modern accountant's role categorizing and posting journal, but there's journals investigating the 20% that didn't reconcile, the 80%, let's say, it's done automatically. But actually, there's still very little value add in all those activities. I think about the accountant or the finance team member's job. There's like offense and defense mode. You're in defense mode when you're closing the books. You're just keeping everything afloat. You're just making sure you meet that next deadline so you can publish the finance. But you're actually doing very little in terms of building new processes. Maybe you could chase after that new tax credit. You could build a new travel and expense policy. You could think about how to make your processes tighter and think more strategically, analyze your numbers in your P&L, talk with your stakeholders in the business. I mean, there's an infinite variety of different tasks you can do if you're not doing repetitive closing tasks. So that's why we say, like, shortening the month-end close will get us into the offense mode instead of playing defense. So I think that's like, we need to get to that time. And I think spending less time in this error handling or data manipulation is the way we can get there. So that's why I'm so curious about practical use cases and using AI and taking all that away as much as possible and getting me into the offense mode.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fascinating times to build in this space. And finance, I truly believe, has a massive opportunity to step up in terms of what it can deliver to the business. But we need to get time back. And so all of this tools that we're building is just for that, just giving time back to the teams. I'm actually, as we are very product focused team here, I really want to talk with our engineers as well and really sort of go to the next level. How are they actually building that? Because we discussed some of the pretty interesting ways, different ways of approaching the problem that hasn't been solved for many years. So let's maybe go and just talk to engineers and ask them what they're building.
It's also like equally fascinating when we talk about it. So let's do that.